For years, perhaps even decades, you have walked a path that felt heavy. It was paved with moments of profound solitude, sharp pangs of betrayal, and a relentless, confusing sense of being profoundly misunderstood by the very world you were born to inspire. You carried burdens that felt disproportionate to your frame, a sensitivity that often seemed like a weakness, a desire for truth that made you an outsider. This was not chaos. This was the crucible. This was the refining fire, preparing the metal of your mission. Many of you, the authentic chosen ones, have recently emerged from a period of intense spiritual testing. It was not a test administered with a visible rubric or clear instructions. It was a test of endurance, of faith in the absence of evidence, of maintaining your light when the surrounding darkness was at its most convincing. It involved people, the mirrors placed in your path, who were simply playing their assigned role in the divine narrative. Their criticism, their doubt, and their attempts to diminish your spirit were never truly about you. They were merely the instruments of your elevation, the resistance that builds the spiritual muscle required for the next chapter. The most difficult moments, the points of near collapse, were not failures. They were checkpoints. Each time you chose integrity over ease, each time you chose compassion over bitterness, each time you simply kept going when every logical voice screamed for surrender, you were subtly gathering the unseen spiritual certificates that would validate your purpose. And now the air shifts. The frequency has changed. A certain profound peace is beginning to settle over the landscape of your life. This calmness is not a reward. It is an announcement. It is the quiet moment after the final wave has receded, signaling that the storm, the final, most crucial test, has been weathered. You have passed. The words that have been whispered in the highest courts of the spiritual realm are now being echoed down to you. The celestial beings who have been assigned to your protection have delivered their final report. And what they have testified about your character, your resilience, and your unshakable devotion to the light is the profound truth that will now be revealed. Take a moment. Let that truth permeate every cell of your being. The season of proving is over. The season of receiving begins. Listen now to the 7 undeniable confirmations that validate your passage. Point 1. The divine reassignment of your emotional wounds. You will notice, dear one, that the emotional triggers that once held a powerful, paralyzing grip on your peace have decisively lost their voltage. This is not mere healing. This is a spiritual transmutation. Consider the wound not as a break in your vessel, but as an energetic vortex. Prior to passing this test, the vortex spun inward, drawing your current energy, your now, into the memory of the past hurt, perpetually recharging the pain body. The pain body, a phrase often whispered in the energetic courts, is the accumulated residue of unintegrated sorrow, a dense mass of low-frequency vibration designed to keep the consciousness anchored in the third dimension's limitations. But now you observe a profound stillness where the sharp recoil of memory once resided. You may recall the incident, the betrayal, and the abandonment, but the accompanying physiological response, the sudden heat in the chest, the tightness in the jaw, and the involuntary clenching of the solar plexus, is absent. This absence is the evidence of your graduation. It signifies that your conscious mind, the divine spark within your awareness, no longer grants the past the power to dictate the present moment's vibrational output. What they said, and this is the realization that unlocks the next phase of your destiny, is this: you successfully transmuted pain into wisdom. This is a highly technical spiritual achievement, a feat of alchemical self-mastery. You did not simply cope with the pain, you consumed it, processed it, and converted its low-frequency density into high-frequency understanding. Your spiritual assignment has thus been upgraded from Healy to Healer. This reassignment is not a title you apply for. It is an energetic recognition of your new resonance. For the Healy, the focus is internal, the necessary and critical work of self-recalibration. For the Healer, the focus expands. Your presence itself becomes a vibrational balm. The old wounds are no longer energetic anchors binding you to suffering. They are now testimonial markers. They are the visible scars on the spiritual plane that qualify you to guide others through the darkness you successfully navigated. Think of it as the spiritual equivalent of passing a rigorous, specialized final examination in energetic physics. The knowledge is now embodied, not theoretical. This passing means the universe can now trust you with greater levels of energetic inflow because the primary drain, the unintegrated emotional history, has been sealed and repurposed. The energy that once flowed back to the trauma now flows forward into creative purpose. You have achieved an energetic closure, a definitive ending to the cycle of reactive suffering. This stillness is not numbness, it is spiritual sovereignty. It is the profound and quiet power of being untouched by that which once defined you. Let this deep truth settle. Allow the residue of the past to disintegrate completely, knowing that its only remaining purpose is to serve as the foundation upon which your healing ministry, whether formal or informal, will be built. You have integrated the shadow. You are now whole enough to hold the space for others to begin their own journey toward wholeness. The transformation is complete. Point 2. The unveiling of hidden allies. The second confirmation of your passage is not symbolic or abstract. It is observable, measurable, and unmistakably real. It reveals itself through a tangible shift in the composition of your external reality, most notably in the people who once occupied central roles in your life. Those individuals who were spiritually contracted to distract you, diminish your confidence, test your boundaries, or apply pressure to your sense of self, are now being gently, efficiently, and often quietly removed from your sphere. This is not a collapse, nor a loss, nor a punishment directed at them. It is vibrational streamlining. Their role was never permanent. They were positioned as resistance, as weight, as contrast, to test whether the density of doubt around you could overpower the lightness of your self-belief. You passed that test not by fighting, explaining, or proving yourself, but by remaining internally anchored. Because you held your integrity without distortion, their assignment has reached its natural conclusion. The universe does not dramatize endings that are complete. Instead, it dissolves them through organic transitions, shifts in careers, diverging interests, physical distance, or a mutual and unforced fading of contact. There is no betrayal, no explosion, and no final confrontation. That absence of chaos is the signature of a successful spiritual exit. It signals liberation rather than rupture, maturity rather than loss, and completion rather than abandonment. At the same time, something equally precise is unfolding. You may have heard it described as a promise, but it is more accurately a law. When space is cleared, it does not remain empty. Authentic high-frequency connections, those aligned with your current level of consciousness and purpose, begin to emerge. They do not arrive loudly or demand immediate intimacy. They enter quietly, often through unremarkable moments, because resonance does not require performance. These new connections feel different in ways that are subtle yet unmistakable. There is mutual recognition without explanation, a sense of familiarity that bypasses excessive storytelling or justification. There is non-competitive elevation, where success is celebrated rather than measured, and growth is shared rather than compared. There is also energetic silence, the rare comfort of being able to sit together without filling the space, knowing that nothing needs to be proven or defended. In the past, relationships required constant energetic expenditure. You had to explain your vision, translate your depth, manage others' insecurities, or justify your need for solitude and meaning. Those dynamics were reflections of an earlier stage of becoming. Now, the universe recognizes that your vessel is stable. You no longer leak energy through overgiving, over-explaining, or self-abandonment. Because of this stability, you are now capable of receiving pure, undiluted supportive energy. The people entering your life at this stage are not distractions or lessons, they are anchors. Their purpose is not to reshape you, but to support what you are already becoming. The critical insight here is simple and unavoidably true. The quality of your circle is always a mirror of the quality of your inner state. When you were healing, you attracted others who were wounded, creating bonds rooted in survival, trauma, or mutual rescue. Those connections were not mistakes, they were necessary classrooms that taught you discernment, boundaries, and self-sovereignty. Having passed that phase, you now attract individuals who are equally sovereign. These relationships are not based on dependence, but on interdependence, strength supporting strength, clarity meeting clarity. Do not search for these people. Searching implies lack, and lack distorts resonance. Simply hold the refined vibrational signature you have earned through endurance, self-honesty, and restraint. They are already being guided toward you by the same divine intelligence that guided you through separation, silence, and refinement. What you are experiencing now is not isolation, it is preparation. The universe is acknowledging your graduation by supplying the precise personnel required for your next level of creation. Receive these connections with quiet gratitude, not urgency or attachment, understanding that they are not coincidences but confirmations. You are not being left behind. You are being surrounded by recognition. Point 3, the activation of quiet authority. The third confirmation is perhaps the most humbling and the most powerful, the activation of quiet authority. This is the moment when something fundamental shifts in the way you move through the world. Your voice, which may once have been tentative, overly loud, apologetic, or eager to explain itself, now carries a new, subtle, yet unmistakable weight. This change has little to do with volume, persuasion, or clever wording. It is about frequency. It is about the invisible vibration that rides beneath your words and communicates far more than language ever could. You will notice that you speak less, but when you do choose to speak, your words land with precision and clarity. People listen, not because you demand attention, but because something in them recognizes coherence, truth, and steadiness. This is the quiet confirmation that your spiritual rank has been acknowledged, not by people, but by the deeper laws governing consciousness itself. In the esoteric hierarchy of awareness, authority is never bestowed through titles, credentials, or dominance. It is granted through vibrational purity. During earlier phases of your journey, especially when the spiritual test was active, you may have found yourself struggling to be heard. You may have over-explained, justified your boundaries, or defended your truth repeatedly. This was not failure, it was refinement. That stage represented a lower frequency attempt to gain external validation, while your inner sovereignty was still consolidating. Now, that struggle has dissolved. Having passed the test of self-sovereignty, you no longer need to convince anyone of who you are or what you know. The truth has integrated so deeply into your being that it radiates effortlessly. Your words are no longer an argument. They are an echo of an internal reality that is settled, embodied, and unshakable. This kind of truth cannot be debated, not because it is intellectually superior, but because it is energetically aligned. The human spirit instinctively yields to alignment. This is the unseen mechanics of influence at its highest level. As this quiet authority stabilizes, you may begin to notice subtle but consistent changes in how others respond to you. Your mere presence carries a calming gravity. Rooms feel different when you enter them. Conversations soften, tension loosens. People who thrive on chaos may become strangely subdued around you, while others may feel drawn to share their struggles, confess truths, or seek your perspectives. You're not trying to fix, advise, or control anything. You are simply present. The high frequency of your stabilized inner field acts like a solvent, gently dissolving lower frequency patterns without confrontation or effort. You become, in effect, a localized field of order, coherence, and emotional regulation. This is often the moment that truly shifts one's understanding of power, because you realize that your impact is now primarily vibrational rather than action-based. Influence no longer comes from striving or performance. It emerges naturally from who you are being. This realization is both liberating and sobering. Quiet authority is the hallmark of the seasoned spiritual warrior, not the initiate. With it comes responsibility. You are now tasked with protecting your inner state with great care. The authority you carry is sustained only through non-reactionary peace. The moment you slip into defensiveness, the need to prove yourself, or subtle egoic pride, the frequency lowers and the authority recedes. Your strength lies in gentleness, in emotional restraint, in deep listening, and in unwavering inner knowing. You no longer chase validation or recognition because you have moved beyond needing it. You are no longer trying to become worthy. You are simply being your worth. And the universe, through the spontaneous reactions, respect, and recalibration of those around you, affirms this truth again and again. This is the profound quietness of genuine power, steady, humble, and unmistakably real. Point 4, the spiritual sobriety of intent. The fourth powerful confirmation is the complete and utter purification of your desire structure, leading to what can only be described as spiritual sobriety of intent. This is not a surface-level adjustment or a temporary mood. It is a deep internal restructuring of why you do what you do. Before passing this significant test, your motivations, while sincere and good-hearted, were often unconsciously entangled with the need for external approval, or shaped by the ego's quiet thirst for reward, recognition, or validation. There was a subtle transactional energy present, a belief, often unspoken, that spiritual effort should result in visible compensation. I will do this inner work so that I may receive that blessing. This mindset is not sinful or wrong. It is simply the natural calculus of an unrefined self, learning how the universe responds to intention. Now, however, that internal bargaining system has dissolved. You have entered a state where external validation no longer carries gravitational pull over your decisions. Material flash, applause, and recognition have lost their ability to steer your actions. Your desire structure has been ruthlessly purified, stripped of excess weight, leaving only what is essential, stable, and high vibrational. You no longer feel compelled to prove your worth through outcomes. Instead, You experience fulfillment within the alignment itself. Action has become devotional rather than transactional. If you create, it is not to be seen, praised, or rewarded. You create because creation is flowing through you as a natural extension of divine alignment. The outcome no longer defines the value of the act. It is simply the physical echo of an already complete inner state. In this way, service becomes its own nourishment, and expression becomes its own completion. They said your intention is now rooted solely in service and pure, unselfish creation. And this is not symbolic language. This purification of intent is the central gateway to receiving massive and sustained blessings. The cosmos operates on a principle of vibrational safety and intelligent distribution. When intention is mixed with egoic attachment, the universe must filter, delay, or limit certain gifts, not as punishment, but as protection. Power placed in the hands of an unstable identity creates distortion, harm, or misdirection. Think of the universe as a master spiritual bank. Unlimited credit is never given to a client who has not demonstrated impeccable responsibility. Only the soul that has proven it can hold abundance without being consumed by it, is entrusted with exponential flow. Your ability to pass this test signals that you have reached that threshold. You have demonstrated restraint, clarity, and integrity at the energetic level. The universe now trusts you, not conditionally, but definitively, because it knows that whatever flows through you will be used for the highest good. Your ego is no longer steering the wheel. It is seated, quiet, and subordinate to wisdom. This stability functions as a cosmic insurance policy, ensuring that blessings amplify service rather than self-importance. As a result, manifestation begins to feel fundamentally different. What once felt like effort, strain, or waiting now unfolds with a quiet inevitability. Opportunities arrive without force. Solutions emerge without struggle. Gratitude no longer requires dramatic events to be activated. A clear morning, a moment of insight, a gentle resolution to an old problem, these become profound and sufficient. This steady internal contentment is not complacency. It is spiritual sobriety. It is the unmistakable sign that you have internalized abundance rather than chasing it. You no longer reach outward to prove your worth or secure your future. You stand rooted in inherent sufficiency. And from that grounded state, attraction becomes effortless. This purified desire state is fertile ground, not for fleeting miracles, but for genuine, enduring ones that integrate seamlessly into your life without destabilizing your soul. Point 5, the sudden clarity of path. The fifth powerful confirmation of your passage is the dissolution of the perpetual fog of uncertainty that once cloaked every step forward, that dense inner haze that made even the smallest decision feel monumental and heavy. During the test phase, confusion was not a flaw, but a feature of the refinement process. It forced you to confront doubt, to wrestle with hesitation, and to experience the spiritual paralysis that came from believing your mission was too vast to move toward without absolute certainty. You agonized over minor choices, replayed conversations in your mind, and delayed action while waiting for a dramatic, unmistakable sign from the universe, something loud, obvious, and impossible to misinterpret. You were conditioned to believe that destiny would announce itself with spectacle, but that era has ended. That fog, beloved one, has now begun to lift in a way that feels almost understated. The external noise that once distorted your perception has softened, and the internal static that clouded your judgment has been neutralized. Your inner GPS, your direct and unfiltered connection to the divine source has been fully recalibrated. This recalibration does not arrive as constant emotional highs or mystical visions. It reveals itself in deeply practical, grounded ways. The small daily decisions that once drained your energy now feel guided and natural. You know what to say, where to go, what to prioritize, and what to release without exhausting mental debate. You move without friction, choosing correctly, not because you analyzed every possibility, but because alignment has replaced anxiety. This is the quiet power of walking in the slipstream of destiny, where effort decreases as effectiveness increases. This clarity is rooted in your integration of divine timing over human striving. In the past, when doors seemed closed or progress felt delayed, you responded by pushing harder, forcing outcomes, or attempting to control the sequence of events through sheer will. That approach always led to resistance, exhaustion, and disappointment. Now, having passed the test, you recognize that friction is not failure, but feedback. When something resists you, you no longer interpret it as rejection or weakness. You pivot calmly, trusting that the universe is redirecting you toward a path of less resistance because you are in alignment, not because you are avoiding challenge. You are now walking the anointed path through fluid recognition rather than struggle. This recognition is a refined form of intuition that communicates through certainty rather than emotion or overthinking. You simply know when to speak and when to remain silent, when to accept an invitation and when to decline, and when to act and when to wait. There is no urgency, no panic, no compulsion to explain yourself. This deep internal knowing is evidence that the higher aspects of your consciousness have assumed navigational control, because the lower self has proven it cannot manage the complexity of your divine chart. You are moving with a grace that feels effortless, yet produces tangible results. The anxious need for external reassurance and the compulsive searching for signs, validation, and confirmation from others have dissolved completely. In its place stands a profound, grounded confidence, quiet but unshakable. You are no longer trying to find the path, you are walking it. You are exactly where you need to be, doing exactly what you are meant to do, in perfect divine timing. The path is clear now, not because the world has changed, but because you have. Point 6. The repossession of lost time and energy. The sixth validation is a deeply physical and energetic truth, one that is felt not as an idea, but as a tangible shift within your body and consciousness, the repossession of lost time and energy. Throughout the long crucible of your testing, immense reserves of your vital life force were being steadily siphoned away, often without your conscious awareness. This depletion did not come from visible exertion or physical labor, but from invisible drains that accumulated day after day. Your energy was consumed by repetitive mental loops of worry, by the quiet anxiety of anticipation, by the emotional friction of comparison, and by the constant energetic taxation of relationships and environments that were not aligned with your true nature. You were carrying the unspoken weight of other people's expectations, unresolved dynamics, and unhealed projections. You were maintaining masks, roles, and personas simply to survive, and the spiritual cost of that performance was enormous. This is why you often felt exhausted even after rest, depleted even in moments of stillness, and drained without being able to explain why. It was not weakness, it was leakage. Now comes the declaration. The energetic debt has been paid, the accounts have been settled, because you successfully severed the energetic cords that tethered you to people, places, habits, and thought patterns that fed on your light. The energy that was once diverted outward is now returning home. This return is not dramatic or chaotic. It is steady, grounding, and unmistakable. You begin to notice a sustained uplift in your mental clarity and physical vitality. Your need for excessive sleep diminishes, not because you are forcing productivity, but because your energy is no longer being drained while you rest. Your focus sharpens naturally, without strain. Your thoughts slow, not from fatigue, but from internal quiet. You experience a deep internal stillness that feels spacious rather than heavy, alert rather than tense. This is not a temporary surge or adrenaline spike. It is the restoration of your baseline vibrational health, the natural state you were meant to inhabit before the drain cycles began. You are being granted a reprieve, an infusion of vital life force, not as a reward for suffering, but as a resource for creation. This marks the definitive end of the drain cycle. The universe is signaling that it no longer requires your energy reserves for the complex, taxing work of spiritual maintenance, purification, and endurance. That phase is complete. The refining fire has done its work. Your energy is now being reallocated directly toward creation, inspiration, alignment, and joy. This blessing is deeply practical and immediately observable. The hours you once spent spiraling in self-doubt now open into clear stretches of focused work. The emotional energy once consumed by defending yourself, explaining yourself, absorbing criticism, is now free to fuel your creative projects, your vision, and your expansion. You find yourself accomplishing more with less effort, not because you are pushing harder, but because resistance has fallen away. To acknowledge this repossession is to enter a period of sacred stewardship. You are now responsible for how this revitalized energy is used and protected. Time and energy are the highest forms of spiritual currency, and you have reclaimed both. Guard them fiercely, but calmly. Spend them only on what nourishes your frequency, on what aligns with your divine assignments, and on what honors the peace you fought to reclaim. Allow yourself to enjoy simplicity without guilt, productivity without burnout, and rest without collapse. This deep internal sense of readiness, this calm vitality beneath your movements and thoughts, is the unmistakable confirmation that the old, exhausting cycles have concluded. A new chapter has begun, one defined not by survival, but by effortless creation, grounded presence, and sustained inner power. Point 7, the final confirmation, peace as a constant state. The seventh and most profound confirmation, the ultimate revelation that will quietly but irrevocably change everything, is the internal shift itself, peace as a constant state of being. Before this passage, peace was something conditional. It arrived after you overcame a challenge, after you prayed deeply, after you meditated long enough, or after circumstances temporarily aligned in your favor. It came and went like a visitor, welcome but fleeting, something you learned to appreciate precisely because it was not guaranteed. You had to pursue it, protect it, and often fight to reclaim it when the world disrupted your balance. Now, that entire relationship with peace has transformed. Peace is no longer a reward at the end of effort. It is the ground you stand on. It is no longer an achievement. It is your default state. This is the moment the soul graduates from seeking to knowing. The most profound affirmation they said you earned was not delivered through words, signs, or external validation, but through this internal recalibration. Your spirit has entered a state of non-reactionary grace, a deeply embodied awareness that external events are temporary ripples moving across a much larger, benevolent, and perfectly ordered divine current. This is not blind faith or surface-level positivity. It is not denial, avoidance, or emotional numbness. It is spiritual intelligence at its highest level. You understand at a cellular level that all things are unfolding with purpose, timing, and precision, even when the surface narrative appears chaotic or unjust. Because your consciousness is now anchored to eternal truth rather than temporary appearances, fear no longer finds fertile ground within you. The storms of life may still arrive, but they no longer define your inner climate. The weather inside you no longer depends on the weather outside you. When conflict arises, you do not absorb it. When instability appears, you do not mirror it. When others panic, you do not follow. You observe with clarity, compassion, and restraint. You offer presence without self-sacrifice, empathy without entanglement, and light without depletion. You have learned how to remain open without being porous, loving without being drained, and aware without being reactive. This is the moment you become the mountain rather than the ship. The world can shift, shake, and roar around you, but your center remains unmoved. This is where your spiritual identity finally solidifies. The ego, once tasked with survival, defense, and constant self-justification, loosens its grip. It no longer needs to be loud, vigilant, or proving anything. In its place, the divine self steps forward as the primary operator of your life. Decisions now come from stillness rather than fear. Actions arise from alignment rather than urgency. Silence becomes more powerful than explanation. You are no longer driven by the need to be understood, validated, or recognized. You know who you are, and that knowing is enough. This is why this final confirmation marks the end of the proving cycle. The endless tests, the internal questioning, and the feeling that you had to earn your place through suffering or endurance have reached completion. You are no longer auditioning for your destiny. You are no longer negotiating your worth with the universe, the divine, or anyone else. Your worth is self-evident, sealed by what you survived, refined by what you released, and stabilized by the peace you now carry. Rest in this truth. Let it settle deeply, not just in your mind, but in your body, your breath, your posture, and your presence. Allow this calm to permeate every cell, every thought, every interaction. You have passed the most difficult examination of your soul's existence. The time for striving has ended. The time for quiet, joyful, grounded, and powerful execution has arrived. Walk forward gently but confidently. Your destiny does not require force. It responds to alignment. Now, chosen one, allow the full weight of this 7-part confirmation to settle. You have navigated the intricate, subtle tests placed before you. You have faced the fire of purification, and you have emerged not just intact, but exponentially illuminated. This profound peace that now resides within you is not a coincidence. It is the final, undeniable signature of your successful passage. This is not the end of the journey, but the gentle, powerful opening of the most blessed chapter of your life. A life where your true power is no longer found in striving, but in the simple, radiant act of being. Rest in this knowing. Embrace the constant calm. Your light is brighter than you realize, your spiritual rank is secured, and your path is finally undeniably clear. Go forth in peace and begin your new chapter. Amen.